Hey YouTube, good morning. So tonight at midnight we should get the new download of FSDBeta 9.1 if Elon's tweet a few days ago was accurate. So I figured I would do the same thing I did 3 weeks ago, which was a Memorial Park run, which is a little bit of a combination of some highway, suburban highway and suburban neighborhood driving with a round trip run for comparison purposes. So it's starting out at the unprotected left where it needs to creep forward and look left. And it's nice and clear, no problem there. And proceeding. Traffic is a little bit light right now. It's 8 a.m. on a Friday morning here in Jacksonville, Florida, for those of you that don't know where I'm driving. And yeah, so let's see what we got. This shouldn't be materially different than anything you've seen on my last few videos. Other than just the way the car drives differently between day to day based on the interactions with traffic. So, but sometimes it's a little bit easier to compare side by side from the day before. A couple police officers sitting over there. It'll be neat one day when hopefully we get a good visualization of emergency vehicles. We've talked about that before. Mostly ambulances, fire trucks, things like that. And Elon even tweeted one time that the car will be able to hear eventually, whether it be using internal speakers or perhaps the external pedestrian speaker, if it can act as a microphone also as an additional input sensor for perhaps how it should behave, whether or not it be pull over to the side of the road or look for specific sirens, or I guess you can't look for a siren, specific light type of interactions on a vehicle. A little bit of braking there, but I think it was because of this flashing light that it saw. It hasn't done that a whole lot. That was a little bit new there, just a little bit of a tap on the brake. See how this intersection is looking. Just barely starting to draw out this median here, which I would think it'd be a little bit clearer than that. It's got a pretty good view of it with its forward-facing cameras right now. Let's see if it tightens up a little bit as we approach it. A little bit, not very strong. What is okay? It was cheating over to the right with a car right behind me there, and I'm staying in this lane. I'm not exactly sure why I was doing that. I'll have to look back. Maybe my vector was slowing down and wanting to go around this car in front. Okay, as I've done before, at this intersection here, I'm going to disconnect and let it... Okay, it was putting my blinker on to go around that car with that car right on my tail again, rather than wait. That's interesting. It hasn't done a whole lot of wanting to go around slow vehicles in the last few builds, but it definitely did it twice there. Now, I will also say that that disengagement, whoa, that was a little weird. A little bit of a S-curve there to get centered in this lane after I re-engaged it. Because my route back there had me going straight, going around slower traffic wasn't necessarily a bad idea. But in my mind, I knew I was going to disengage and turn right here anyway to let the navigation reroute back through the route we've used before. So I'm not exactly sure. We can look at that in post, and if you guys see anything in the comments on what you think it was doing back there, please feel free to comment. In general, the going around slower traffic when in kind of a suburban highway kind of a scenario isn't always the best idea. Sometimes it's just better to get in your lane and stay with it, unless, you know, it's wide open. Wide open meaning there's nobody in the left lane. If there's people in the left lane, they're kind of waiting also. So sometimes it's just better to stick where you are. Maybe that logic will get incorporated. Okay, here we are again with these parking spots here that define this right side of this lane here. There's cars in it this morning that kind of define the no drivable area, but as these cars are empty here, you see here, there's no line on the right. It's not crossing over to those parking spaces, but it's definitely not drawing them on the visualization either. I've commented before that drawing those parking spaces would be very helpful for both FSDBeta, there's a very large pothole there, and for Smart Summon, right? Because, you know, Smart Summon, if it doesn't have a really well mapped parking lot, sometimes it crosses parking spaces as if it was wide open pavement. Okay, for those of you that remember, we had a weird situation where it tried to run this red light a couple of weeks ago while this green arrow was green. So let's just keep an eye on that. It should be going straight and it should be stopping here. It does have a green right arrow and it does feel like it's slowing down and stopping. Nope, here it goes again. Okay, identical scenario. Got a snapshot of that one now. You can't see it right now, but I've got two greens with a green arrow to the right now that it turned, but interesting. Okay, I kind of was hoping that was just going to work randomly on the second time, but that green arrow for the cleared protected right turn while the straight lanes were stopped was just enough to get it to get confused again. Okay, well, let's get that behind us. All right, so just coming up here, we've got a couple flashing yellow lights that have given a little bit of mixed behavior before. Mixed meaning sometimes it slowed, sometimes it proceeded through them, and sometimes it stopped. Locally where I am, a flashing yellow means proceed with caution, so a little bit of braking so the side cameras can ensure nobody's proceeding from the right would be an appropriate action. Stopping at a yellow light is not appropriate unless there is some sort of crossing traffic to stop for. All right, we're at 33, 31, 30, and it's slowing. There's somebody behind me, so I have to tap the accelerator to proceed. So that was a little bit too slow. And here we are again. There is a car here on the left, and the single yellow light, it did just right there. So the double yellow, it was coming almost to a stop. There was a car that was rapidly approaching from behind that I didn't want to get too annoyed with me. Okay, I need a right turn here. There's room for two cars. It needs to turn on the blinker and get on the right side. Okay, it's in the left side, and the car behind me is confused. Okay, I've got green, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn right here. This poor guy behind me is probably thinking I'm a teenage driver. That one's a little hard to describe. I've described it before, but when there's room for two and you're going right, you need to be in the right lane. That time the Tesla chose the left side and then turned right, which kind of cuts off that space for a turn lane. There's a good four-way stop there, and it did a nice brake. It didn't do too much of a California roll, which it has done in the past. And that was a good kind of that last little intersection where we just yielded with this car was good. He had the stop sign but was ahead of me, and I merged right in without any sort of slowdown, which was good. Another flashing yellow that's a little bit obscured by the trees, and it did a good job there. A little bit of a brake, recognize what it is, and then proceed. Good example of crossing traffic in front. It didn't slow down at all. That's all new for Tesla Vision. As those cars cross in front, the radar used to hit the brakes pretty hard for that kind of a scenario. That's gotten much, much better. unusual braking there that I'm not sure why. It slowed down below the speed limit for something I didn't see. All right. Okay. It should continue up a little bit further forward for the stop line. Looks like it's slowly creeping, but see, it's not quite up to the stop line. It's right up in front of me, but there's not room for a full car. It's about a half of a car length behind the stop line. Green, proceeding, documenting a few pedestrians that cross the street over there pretty good. Car here has got his blinker on, is waiting. That was good. Other than running the occasional stoplight with a misinterpreted signal, generally stoplights have been very, very reliable. Obviously the occasional running a red light is a very big deal, so I'm not going to make light of that. All right, this guy on my right is turning right. Not good. That's good. All right. Got two people over here mapped as one. I saw a second person flip in there a little bit. Coming up here at this next stoplight, I've done a highlight clip of this one. It's a good example of the car knowing a stoplight is there before it can see it. As you can see, these oak trees are kind of hanging over the street. There is a stop sign and it's already marked it here, stopping for traffic control. I can't see it yet, neither does the car. Okay, I can just start to see through the trees, it's green. See, it's slowing down until it sees that it's green. So there's a little bit of a relationship between it knows there's a stoplight there, it says it's stopping for traffic control, but the camera is still waiting. We've reached our destination. The camera is still waiting to see what color the light is. I think this is a good example of how mapping and vision data is fusing pretty well. It knows something is there, it knows it's got to make a decision on it when it sees it, and then once it sees it, it proceeds appropriately. All right, well, that is the first leg. Let me get reset and turn back around, and we'll get the second leg back and see what else we see. I guess in general, I'd say that wasn't too bad. A couple disengagements, and the biggest highlight being the running of the red light again in this scenario. All right, here's our return leg. Let's see how it goes. Kind of a nice Y intersection here. We typically get to see some of these blue cars at this intersection. It needs to kind of creep a little bit further forward than that to see to the left. The right, it's got a forward-facing view. Okay, there's a car coming. It's pretty clear as day there, so should see these cars no problem. It's not mapping them very far out on this visualization, though. Okay, it's got a pretty good gap to the left with the red light. Now we just got to find our hole to the right. There's a car approaching it needs to wait for, and I think it can go right after this car. Let's let it go. Okay, needs to go. It needs to go. Give it some commit there. Give it some commit. All right. It didn't do too bad there. I wish it had given a little bit more of a commit there, but it didn't over accelerate. I guess that's fine. They're going to work on that. But it did make the right decision on what hole to fit in there, so I'm happy with that. And in general, when there is good visibility, I do think the car makes the right decision on when to go into a gap with traffic. I know a lot of you think, you know, I'm kind of bashing Tesla on their unprotected lefts, and I am on scenarios where vision is obscured. And where vision is not obscured, sometimes I think the only problem is the level of speed given to the car to fit through the hole of the appropriate size. So that decision making and acceleration has to be solved a little bit, but totally I think can be solved once they get vision nailed down to where they got good speed detection and they're happy with the amount of vehicles they're seeing and at what distance. Okay, we got a follow me car here, and you can see you can designate the follow me car by it's a little bit darker gray. That used to be the green car in the previous build, version 8 I guess I should say. With this new visualization, that dark car is all we get. I did notice the other day in one of my videos something that we've lost in this visualization. So while you still see trash cans, like this trash can right here will be mapped as trash cans, in version 8, if there was like, I don't want to call it, well, I guess it's yard trash, so like trash bags or piles of branches or leaves or you know, something other than a trash can on the side of the street. In version 8, it had like a bunch of either green and sometimes they were pink dot clusters. I have not seen any equivalent representation on FSD 9 with Tesla Vision. I'm going to assume it's still seeing them, but we'll have to continue to look at that. Maybe we'll see an example of that on this drive. I'm not sure. Okay, we got a green light to proceed. The car over here on the left has got a turn, and we're just going to drive straight through. Didn't even slow down to look on that one. Completely legal. Sometimes I wonder how Tesla in the future is going to it crossed the yellow line a little bit to give those cars some room on that turn. That was interesting. It did not need to do that. There's plenty of room, but as it took that turn, it decided to kind of take the inside lane and actually cross the yellow line a little bit. With no oncoming car, it wasn't a big deal. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Alright. So here's another trash can. It has a palm frond next to it. That's probably not enough yard trash to identify. We need to find something a little bit different. All right, we're turning right here. Yeah, it's going to give us this route that I didn't really want last time. It's going to jump back out on the highway. Well, I'm just going to let it go at this point, just because it may do the exact same thing tomorrow on 9.1, and I'd rather the route be the same. Plus, you never know what you're going to get. We got a nice large yellow light. It's going to go for that. That was a close one. And it actually turned red while we were under the light. That one I might have stopped for as a human driver, but the car chose to go. So the interesting scenario here is I've got a nice follow me car and a follow me truck, and it's a very, very large truck, but it's obscuring my vision up front. I really can't see if there's anything in front of it at all, and it's so wide I don't have a lot of good visibility for stop signs or anything else coming. So it is an interesting situation behind this larger truck. When Vision first came on with version 9, one of the things I remember many of you in the comments saying is if you can't see anything in front of your car, you know you have vision, because the radar used to be able to see things in front of the car by bouncing radar off of either under the car or metal objects around it. Here's a good example of that stoplight. I wasn't able to see it initially, but the banners here on the bottom that are running off of the map data were well aware of it. This is an intersection I haven't filmed before, where it's got two greens here and there's another set of greens over here. It mapped them appropriately, but I can see how it could be disorienting with the angles there, that the car could get confused as to which light was appropriate if the map data wasn't exactly right. So this is a very tight, back, sharp intersection.
Could you try?
Sorry, Siri is talking. Okay, the car is not really in the right lane. It needs to be further over, because this is a left lane and a turn lane, and I'm actually sitting on top of the white line. So I do here have, maybe the camera angle can see it, I've got to do this tight turn to the left, and there is a yellow dotted line to guide that sharp, about 110, 120 degree turn. The vector here obviously is bouncing around a little bit without a nice solid route. It's mapping a cone, which is marking the end of that median. So actually, while there isn't any construction there right now, that cone is a good marker for where the tip of the median is, and that is represented there. Interesting how right now the car is giving dark gray to that truck on the right, which is turning to the right and in the right lane, acting as if it was a follow me car. That also makes me wonder if the car is confused where we're going, because it definitely can see that there's a left and a right turn here. It's a shame there's not a white line in the middle, because I definitely need to be on the left side. There are some streetlights over here in the upper right that you might be able to see with the camera, but are not being mapped here on the visualization at all. And they are for the traffic that's proceeding this direction. All of these cars back here are at a gas station at an intersection, so you can just see how it's picking them and mapping them. That small little sports car there was just mapped as a motorcycle. See if this car gets the dark gray symbology. See how it just got dark gray there for a second? That's interesting. Right there, it flickers. I wonder if, okay, there's my green. It's unprotected, so I need to, okay, I'm tapping the accelerator. There's 3 cars behind me. Very jittery there. I was holding the accelerator down the whole time, which is an intervention. The cars were stacked up behind me and I couldn't really let it go in that intersection. So I let it do the lateral path, which was good. Okay, I've got a green light here. Those cars crossed fine. But the accelerator was the commit speed that I was giving it. So while the previous intersections I was saying I wish Tesla would work on the commit speed a little bit, I completely intervened that time with the accelerator. Okay, so one of the downsides of me not recorrecting this route is we kind of jumped out of the suburban kind of neighborhood stoplight, yellow flashing, and side street interaction. We jumped back out here on this multi-line highway with a little bit less traffic. We did get that complex intersection back there, but here we're probably not going to see a whole lot of interaction, which is good. You get to see it drive in its I would say most refined modes. On this street here, I rarely have any issues, which I know some of you like to see. Here's a good example of controlling lights and non-controlling lights. Can you see how that little one there is just a faded red and the others are bright green? Interesting how that far, and they're all bright. This glowing is the controlling indication. That non-glowing, and you can even see in that scenario, it had the arrow in there. I can see its color, but it's not glowing, which means it's not the controlling indicator, at least what it thinks is the controlling indicator. Which I will bet in that stoplight scenario where it ran the red light earlier, there's probably gonna be some mixture of confusion on what it thought was the controlling light. So one interesting thing about that navigation decision to come back out on this highway fits into the argument of maybe Tesla is using navigation to help full self-driving do a better job. And that goes back to a couple other videos I made where the vision and the navigation were fighting each other so much it got itself in a loop. So jumping back out on the highway would be what I would want a robotaxi to do. I would want it to get itself into the safest environment, perhaps even the quickest environment in some scenarios, to drive autonomously. I'm not sure that it's doing all of that yet. I'm pretty sure it's using, just like Google or Waze, the quickest route navigation technology. So it maps multiple routes and it picks the quickest one. With this low traffic scenario out here today, I'm guessing sometimes it just chose the quickest route. So that's probably what happened there. But the conversation about vision and navigation data fusion, I think, is still an ongoing one. We have kind of a lot to learn there between how they hand off information to each other. All right, did a good job there. So you see this one over on the right is flickering, glowing red occasionally. A little bit of indecision in there. I wonder if that indecision is of an order of magnitude that matters that much. I mean, like, I wonder if they're displaying everything that the car is understanding at that point. Because it definitely didn't hesitate on proceeding on that light at all. These bars here that come up when another car comes around, I don't know if you see these occasionally, these are the ultrasonic sensor indications. And obviously there's a color scheme to how close things are. Right now it's seeing the curb when the curb approaches. When there was a car next to me or on the bridge, you can see it's measuring distance with ultrasonics. Okay, so here we're going to have a left turn across traffic. Depending on the timing of hitting the light, it's either going to be unprotected with a green light or protected with a green arrow. All right, it did a good job stopping on the stop line though. You can see there, that was nice. We're here in time that this should give a green arrow. Let's see if we see it. Okay, it's definitely got the left light kind of occasionally glowing bright, so it knows the left light is my controlling light. Let's see, it should, even though it's, okay, it gave green, and I've also got a green and a green arrow, so this is a protected left, cross traffic. A little bit slow in the middle of the intersection there. There was no car behind me, so I didn't have to change anything. Let's see how it takes this turn here. It takes it nice and wide. Here's a good example of some trash on the street there. There's nothing marking it at all. And there's some more brushes and branches here that are sticking out in the street. See, there's nothing marking it at all. Anyway, okay, so that reached our point there, and let's see. I think that it's basically the same as it did on previous runs on version 9. I didn't see any major differences. It did run the red light again at that exact same intersection as it did previously. The yellow flashing light behavior was mixed. One time it slowed too much, the other times it did it just right. I think that the getting in the right lane, the correct lane at a stoplight is still something that needs a little bit of work. If it doesn't map the center yellow, the center white line when there's spots for two cars. If you're in the left lane, you need to leave room for cars to come and turn to the right. It's still turning right kind of from the left lane. And that's a little bit of a dangerous scenario, because if a car has time to get up next to you, you could be in a bad position to clip them, or they might think you're not using the appropriate right-of-way. On the highway, I think once it gets out there, you know, whether successfully or unsuccessfully, you know, with a turn or a signal, it does a really good job on highways with lights. If we were to do a partial deployment of FSD, in my opinion, I think that part is ready. The stoplights is good. The turns, with protected intersections are good. I think throwing a simple confirmation with either the accelerator or the stalk would be all that's required for some of the more complex turns, such as unprotected lefts or unprotected rights in some scenarios. Here's some pedestrian with some dogs. I don't think we're going to see the little dogs. So anyway, that's what I think. Hopefully everything will download tonight at midnight Pacific time, 3 a.m. Eastern time, and we'll get up in the morning and we'll take this exact same drive on version 9.1 and see if we notice any differences. Let me know what you think in the comments. Appreciate any likes and subscribes if you feel the channel is giving you any information, and have a great day.